Today, the sermon is about the Sabbath, and it's entitled The Sabbath Covenant. The Sabbath Covenant. One of the things that you probably did early on when you were first coming into the knowledge of God is the idea or the concept of what was the Sabbath and whether or not you would keep it. You came aware of why you were here, why were you born, prophecies came to your mind, and somewhere along the line, like it did for me, the idea of the Sabbath became a responsibility to me, and I had to decide. And so I did, to keep it. So, as our country is descending in its morality, etc., we're on our way ascending. We are going the opposite direction than the country is going. How can we help do the right thing? One of the two greatest sins of Israel were idolatry, idol worship, and Sabbath breaking. When you read back through the Old Testament, all the different old books, and the problems that were happening with Israel, those were the two major sins that they were doing. Sabbath breaking was one of them. So today I want to talk about the Sabbath day, but not just talk about the mechanics of keeping it. This is not going to be a message about do's and don'ts or what we do and what we don't do, etc. What I want to talk about is the covenant relationship that we have with God. Covenant, that word covenant. When you think of the difference between a testament and a covenant, I had a problem with those two words for a long time. What's one or the other, Testament, they sound like the same thing. But a testament is something that requires a death for it to be enacted. We have a last will and testament of our will when we die. Somebody has to die for that to happen. But a covenant is unlike that in that both parties, or all the parties that are involved, whether two or three, have to agree that they're going to do everything possible to keep the relationship going of what the agreement was. So it involves a manner of forethought. Something has to go into your mind to think, how am I going to uphold my end of the covenant? So if you'll turn, please, to Exodus 31. Exodus 31. We'd like to go through the section here where he's talking about the Sabbath covenant, the Sabbath as a covenant. He already had given the law in Exodus 20. He's stated, remember the Sabbath day. But here is something beyond that. In Exodus 31, starting in verse 13 to 17, we'll read this. It says, Speak also to the children of Israel, saying, Surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. You shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy to you. Everyone who profanes it shall surely be put to death. For whoever does any work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his people. Work shall be done for 6 days, but the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Therefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant. This is verse 16. And then verse 17, It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. So he's referring back to the creation back in Genesis, about the creation of the Sabbath. But there are items here that he wants us to understand and remember. 3 items I have pulled out of here for the sake of this message. One is the sign, one is the sanctifies, and one is the perpetual covenant, he points out. The sign, it is in verse 13, he says, it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations. What is significant about a sign? We put our sign out at United Church of God, so when people are passing by, they can see, I was looking for the Church of God. Where is it? Oh, there it is, because why do I know where it is? Because they put the sign out there. So they know. If anybody's passing by, stop by. But anyway, the sign identifies. Sign is to identify. It protects a message. It represents something. Our keeping of the Sabbath identifies his people, identifies God's people. It also identifies God. So it projects a message of obedience and represents the great God of creation and sustenance. So we have a sign. We are assigned to represent him. That's pretty exciting in itself when you think about that. Being assigned to represent God, you being here represent God. If others were passing by and see, who are those people of God? There they are. How do you know? They're keeping the Sabbath. And they honor God. And sanctifies. It says that he sanctifies. He will sanctify them. What does that mean? He's set apart from others. Highlighted. They're significant. That God sets those who are keeping it apart, that they would glorify God. What an honor that is, to think about, you get an opportunity to glorify God. This is part of what I'm trying to understand and present here in the word covenant. Is not just the doing the items or the mechanics of it. I'm talking about, what are you thinking about? What are you deciding to do? Do you think about it on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday? Any day of the week you think, what can I do to honor God? What can I do to do my part in fulfilling the covenant that I have with him? Do you think of it on a Tuesday, let's say? I was thinking about it, not that I'm the big deal or an example. I'm just saying I was thinking about it on Tuesday because I had to iron this shirt. Did all my feast shirts on Tuesday morning, so I had to iron them. Part of the reason is so I could wear it today and it's nicely ironed. But I'm thinking about the Sabbath day while it's still Tuesday. So it's part of this covenant. And then we talk about the perpetual covenant. It's an accepted agreement of performance to be done between the participants. Who are the participants in this? God and us. And you. You get to participate in this covenant relationship. Ta-da! We're going to have a picture of a marriage ring. Rings signify a covenant has been made between these two people. Somewhere along the line, somewhere back in time, they promised that they will uphold a law, a binding agreement to say, I promise to live with you, to love you, cherish you, and all the rest for as long as we shall live. There's a covenant relationship that you have, and God is involved with that as well. That's another part of excitement. But there's each party in the marriage relationship has to contribute to the quality and the value of it, so that it remains and so that it's fulfilling and so that it's exciting and living and dynamic and all the rest. Here's a single guy talking about, like, I know. But, I mean, this is by the book. I'm just reading the book, what the book says. I don't know about experience, but it sounds like that's what it ought to be. But anyway, right? Am I doing okay? All the married people? I guess they agree. Anyway, there are different kinds of covenants that we have. But the point is that you have a relationship, and each one contributes to it. And we want to contribute to the love and joy and bounty of God. You can think about that. Of Jesus Christ. When he created it at creation. And we get to honor this relationship on this day. So it becomes more than just the do's and don'ts. It's the thinking involved. So I think it's great. Just fantastic. That's why I want to present it to us, brethren, today. And as I said at the beginning, the world is descending. And the world is going farther and farther and farther away from anything that has to do with God, God's doings, his being, his ideas. It's disintegrating before our eyes. And what makes it go the other way? What makes it go correct? to have a relationship with God. We know that Jesus Christ will come back and set up his ruling kingdom. But in the meantime, we're in the process of developing relationship with him and making sure that we're part of the elect. He said, when I come, he will gather his elect. Do we want to be part of the elect? I think, yes, I think we do. I want to be one of those elect. How can I contribute to the success of that happening? So he doesn't come back and say, well, I never knew you. I don't want him to say that. Please don't say that. Please say, yes, welcome to my kingdom. But we can be involved today, now. We're involved with making sure that we're making a contribution to the covenant that we have with God every hour. Psalm chapter 5. Psalm chapter 5 and verse 11. Psalm chapter 5 and verse 11. But let all those who rejoice, who put their trust in you, let them ever shout for joy because you defend them. Let those who love your name be joyful in you. Be joyful in you. Did I always have joy keeping the Sabbath? No. Did I always, did the Sabbath just become, another Sabbath? Yes. So it's like, okay, Bill, hello up there, are you understanding? Do you want to uphold this idea? Yes, I do. How can I learn it better? Isaiah 58, verse 13 and 14. These are famous verses to read during your fasting time. Isaiah 58, but they come to the end of that chapter, verse 13 and 14, because it talks about the Sabbath day. If you turn away your foot, this is verse 13 of Isaiah 58, if you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, stop mashing on it, stop trampling on it, start identifying it and treating it with honor and dignity, the way it's supposed to be. From doing your pleasure, my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy day of the Lord, honorable, and shall honor him, and not doing your own ways, not finding your own pleasure, not speaking your own words. Then you shall delight yourself in the Lord. Delight yourself in the Lord. We all want to delight ourselves. He wants to delight too in us. There's this relationship we've got going here. And I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father. The mouth of the Lord has spoken. Whew. Powerful, brethren. This brings us back to the sign. The sign, because somebody will advertise. Guess what? We get to advertise the goodness of God. That's a good thing to do. His glory, his creating majesty, his purpose. We get to show the world that by our love and by our loving kindness and our energy that we're putting into serving and upholding our part in this great, beautiful covenant.